Hello, and welcome to the teacher-directed session for using visual literacies to support students as they read the world. Before we begin, gather a few materials for our learning today. You might need wire or pipe cleaners, pen, pencils, and a familiar text. See you in a few minutes.
Hello, I'm Claire Donovan-Skane from CDS Literacies for the Evanston Arts Center. And today we'll be working together to learn more about how visual literacies can support your students to understand images, text, and their world more deeply. So let's visualize our journey. First, we're going to connect through a visual representation of our own identities to learn how visual literacies can represent ourselves no matter where we are. Next, we're going to unpack visual literacies as a concept and explore tools that help us share this information with our students as they work to deeply comprehend across a wide variety of texts. In the following video, we will guide you through all of the resources created by the Evanston Arts Center in hopes that you might bring this powerful learning to life with your students. So let's get started by using a multimodal way to introduce ourselves through visual literacies. It's a fun way to connect with your students or your colleagues through visual representation to show visual literacies right from the start. Let's give it a try. Now, you may have a few pipe cleaners laying around or just a pen and a pencil. If you would like, you can watch the student video where I do this same activity using a pipe cleaner. But for today, I'm going to stick with a pen and a pencil. So let's give it a try. If I were to explain a little something about me using visual literacies or a symbol, I might think about this particular year and how now more than ever, it has felt like I needed to pull on forward momentum as much as possible to continue to be productive and creative. That makes me think of an arrow pointing forward. So, if I were to share something with you about me right now, it would be a symbol of an arrow. That would represent my intention toward forward momentum. Your turn. Pause the video and spend some time thinking about how you might introduce yourselves to students or colleagues through visual literacies. What symbol would you use to tell them a little bit more about yourself? Think of this as the first next step to planning these powerful lessons for your class. I'm going to give you an opportunity to pause the video, spend some time on this, and if you're working with colleagues, please do share with them. Introduce yourself through your visual literacy symbol. And we'll see you back here in just a minute. Visual literacy tools act as access points for readers to use to make meaning of texts and images they see throughout their day, throughout their world. Our ability to observe and interpret our world is ingrained in each of us and filtered through our own biases based on our orientation to the world and our lived experiences. Those help us provide a lens toward our literacies. Trevor Bryan's book, The Art of Comprehension, provides a terrific framework to evoke what he refers to as visual literacy access lenses. I have found this visual to be very helpful and accessible in classroom use. Take a minute to look at ways that Mr. Bryan organizes himself around visual literacies and ways we can think about how we can access these lenses as we read in schools and beyond. These access lenses can help our students understand what to look for when deepening their meaning-making skills within and across texts. Let's take a closer look at some specific visual literacy tools we can apply to images and texts that will help us as teachers plan our lessons, seeing more about the world, and help our students better understand perspective, better understand the deeper comprehension skills that we're asking them of within and across texts.
So, Building on Trevor Bryan's work in the art of comprehension, let's take a little bit more time thinking specifically how we can help our students understand the text that they read on a multimodal level, whether or not they're reading online, whether or not they're reading images, whether or not they're reading text, whether or not they're reading in school spaces or without. These are visual literacy tools that can work across genre. So our visual literacy tools help us read and understand more. We already know that, but let's think about specifics. Whether or not we're thinking about characters in a fiction text or people in a nonfiction text, we can pay attention to some specific things that can help us read more deeply and understand more. One thing we can pay attention to is facial expressions. We can pay attention to the ways in which the authors and illustrators work together to help us understand more about emotions based on the ways that they portray their characters through facial expressions. Another thing we can pay attention to is language, both body language and actual verbal language, how they are using their language to communicate, again, saying a little bit more about our characters. Another thing we can think about is the positioning on the page. Whether or not our characters are close up or far away helps us understand what we should be paying attention to, what is more important, and that can help us get closer to understanding mood and theme. So let's take a little bit of time to think about that. Whether helping your students think about mood and theme can be really challenging. One thing that can help us in terms of visual literacies is color. The colors presented across the page, and especially when colors change drastically from page to page, really indicate a chance to spend more time on those pages thinking about what the author and illustrator are trying to tell us about that scene. We can also pay attention to whether things are big and little, indicating sort of how that character or that place might be positioned in the story. Another thing that can help us is better understanding the relationship to zooming in on things, whether authors and illustrators choose to put things really close or put them farther away, can help us across pages shift our focus and understand and better follow a story across pages. One of the big things that really helps us with mood and theme, of course, is metaphors. Just like we started at the beginning of our session, where we talked about how metaphors can help share a little bit about our identity, metaphors also could help us understand the text just that much more. So these are some things you can particularly look at across text in your classroom. And these are some elements that you can unpack with students as they observe them throughout their reading, or some opportunities that they can open our eyes to that perhaps you're seeing they're not utilizing as they read their world. Can you think of some other strategies that you might utilize to help your students better understand how visual literacies are at play in everything that they do?
What we're doing when we're talking about visual literacies is basically thinking about how to support our ability to construct meaning making from images. So let's give it a try. Here is Bisa Butler's iconic image, Safety Patrol. This piece of art is rich with meaning. Using some of our visual literacy tools that we talked about, let's see if we can't dig deeper, understand more about the character by looking at facial expressions, body language, positioning on the piece. Think about mood via color, zoom, relationship sizes, and metaphors. When students worked on this piece in particular to see more from Bisa Butler's work on Safety Patrol by using visual literacy skills, they noticed quite a few things. Take a look at an example. One thing they noticed was the lack of color in the background versus the poignant, powerful, vibrant colors of each of the characters in the center of the piece. They zoomed in to look at their worried faces. They noticed that one of the characters was dressed differently, with a large belt that might indicate that he is, in fact, saving the people behind him. He's part of the safety patrol. They looked at the biggest kid in the front, the very colorful clothing on all of the students, and the positioning of the students standing together in a group. Their visual literacy skills were in action that day.
So let's apply this new learning to a familiar text. At the end of this video, reach for an old favorite, something that you have read and love to share with your students. See if you can't apply visual literacy cues to see more through close attention to text features, by making inferences, and by building on patterns that might lead to a theme. Think about how you might reintroduce this book by highlighting a social issue that has emerged through the revision of this familiar text. Perhaps there's an abstract idea that has come about from your close observations of the images across the pages of the book. Feel free to check on Student Lesson 2 for a peek into how you might use this as I read Hot City for visual literacy cues in mind. And enjoy this process. It's empowering to see more through visual literacies.
So whether we are looking at fine art in museums, online, or all across our cities, whether we are trying to better understand a text with powerful images, or whether we are just simply playing games with friends, visual literacies are at play. Visual literacies are powerful tools to help us understand all of the aspects of what we see in our world. During our next session, I will walk you through the lesson resources available from the Evanston Arts Center so that you and your colleagues can begin unpacking some of these very powerful tools with your students in your learning communities.